What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In the last video, I finished painting the intercooler on the Evo 10. I did pick this ETS intercooler up secondhand, so it was beat up a little bit. I painted it all black and did the custom stencil in the center orange and then clear coated over everything. This thing came out really, really good. I feel like I'm finally starting to get better on my painting skills. One painting project that I just can't seem to get right though is this front lip. I originally painted this thing about a year ago. I got a few runs in the clear coat. I tried sanding it down, but I burned through, so I had to respray it. Second go around, I got more runs, but I was actually able to sand it and polish them all out. I don't really ever drive the car that much, and so I don't think that the clear coat and everything else had enough time to cure on here. I had to pull the front lip off for another project that I was doing. You do kind of have to bend it a little bit to get it out, and when I did, that paint cracked. That's what I'm going to be starting today in this video. I'm going to finally get this front lip fixed. Stay tuned. If you didn't see the last video, as always, definitely go check that out. In my opinion, one of the sickest things that I've done to the Evo yet. I know most people do not paint their intercooler because it does add a little bit of thickness to it. This is an aftermarket ETS intercooler, and this car is tuned conservatively. I'm not worried about it at all. Super freaking stoked with how that came out though. One thing that I am ready to get finished is this front lip. Out of everything else that I've done with the car, mechanically, aesthetically, this lip has given me more trouble literally than anything. From bare plastic, I sprayed it about a year ago. I had a few runs in the clear coat and I was trying to sand them down. I burned through. I did not put very many layers on there. Second go around, resprayed the clear, got a ton of runs at this little top section right here. Luckily for me, I was actually able to sand all of them out. It looks really, really good. This is actually where it started to crack, about right here. I just peeled the rest of this away that was loose. It could have been me. It could have been that I just didn't sand very well right here. You can see this pieces over here are still raised, so they're chipping away. I also think that when taking this front lip on and off, this is just a stress point. If you come over here to this side, you can see that it's actually starting to crack right here too. I'm just gonna have to be very careful when putting it on and off. I'm not gonna be able to bend it as much as I think that I can. There's another spot up here that's chipping away. This was actually my fault. When this thing was sitting, I dropped something on it. Didn't really care because I knew I was gonna have to fix this anyway. There's one more little small section right here. It is on the back side, so you don't really see it that much, but I notice it. I just want to make sure that I hit that really good too. Hopefully this will be my last go around with this thing. Just gonna get started on sanding this, try to get as level of a surface as possible. I'll do all these other little areas that I mentioned also. I don't want to build the primer up too thick, but I may have to spray one layer and then let it dry, sand a little bit, and then spray another. Basically gonna do just everything I can to get this thing prepped up for base coat. I was able to get the front lip all cleaned up. I was able to sand everything down, get it all feathered out. And then I've got the first layer of primer here. I do still have a little bit more sanding to do. As you can see, there's an edge right there. This one came out really good. This one still has a small border around it that you can see. I need to feather that out more. As long as I don't burn through, this one right over here should be good too. I just need to feather this little edge. Primer that I'm using is the same thing that I've used on everything. It's this Proform direct to metal primer. It is a 2K primer, so you have the actual primer down here, and then this is your activator or hardener. It mixes 4:1, and then if you want to thin it out a little bit, you can add another 1 part of reducer. All of my bigger projects, I usually use my Harbor Freight purple gun for the primer, but because it was such a small area, I decided to use my little mini gun. I hate wasting stuff, so the easiest way for me to mix this up for these little small pieces is I just use a syringe. That is the primer and gun setup. 2 mistakes that I made. As you can see, the first one here, for some reason, I did not see that there was not a piece of tape right here. I did get some overspray on this area. Not a big deal at all. I'm going to sand this thing down anyway to get the clear coat ready. But the one major thing that I forgot to do is I have some adhesion promoter, and you're supposed to use it with plastics and primer. I'm hoping that since I did use that 600 grit sandpaper to feather everything out, and I did sand the plastic along with it, it'll have pretty good adhesion. I'm going to get all of this primer sanded down, try to get it feathered out a little bit more. I'm hoping that I should only have to throw on 1 more coat of primer and sand it, but it may take 2. Either way, I'm going to get started sanding. I'll lay on the next coat of primer or 2, and then I will get this thing completely prepped up for base coat. Front lip is all prepped up and ready to go for base. All my little spots that I needed to hit are nice and smooth now. I also went ahead and used the gray scuff pads to get everything else sanded down. Makes it much easier to sand this thing down and to get into all of those little tight corners and spaces. I also put up the tape and drape, as you can see. I picked this stuff up off of Amazon. It's called Plasma Mask, I believe. It's the 12 foot. If you need a temporary cover for anything, this stuff really does work great. When it is really hot outside, it doesn't matter so much right now, but anything over 100 degrees, this tape does start to sweat and then it will peel. Just to be on the safe side this time, this is what I always do, is just use some of this 3M rough surface tape. I'm probably just going to use the minigun again with the base coat. What I'll do is, as I'm spraying it, I'll go ahead and hit the first coat right on the spot. Second coat, I'll cover it again and then kind of spread it out just a little bit. Once I get it all nice and blended in, I'll clear it. Clear coat has always been my nemesis in the past. I just can't seem to figure out how to spray it right. However, over the last few projects, doing my wheels, the brake calipers, and the intercooler, all my clear coats have come out excellent. The first time that I painted this thing, I actually had it hanging vertically, so it was turned like this, and then these bottom ends right here is what was hanging down. Also didn't have this light up here. I'm hoping that along with it laying like this, it'll make it much better this time. For my clear coat gun, I'll be using the Spectrum 1.3. When I do larger projects, this is what I also use for my base. Here is the base coat. This is what I used to paint it with originally. This is actually the same can. Reducer, it is about 90 degrees out right now, so slow is what we're using. Here is the clear coat. It's this Gentech Kick-Ass Clear. And then here is the slow hardener for that. I'm gonna get the front lip cleaned off with some soap and water. I'll hit it with some degreaser. That's what's in here. I'll get my base laid down, and then hopefully I can get this clear laid down nicely. Is finally finished. I've got the clear coat on here. Let's start on this side. This side came out absolutely beautiful. As you can see, no issues, literally no issues at all the whole way around right here. Come right here, still looks great. Everything's nice and smooth, no runs whatsoever. And then we get to this little edge right here. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but there is definitely a little run right here. It's a pretty good sized sag, but I'm really hoping that I can sand that down and then polish it out. And then as we make our way around, the top up here came out really, really nice, but right here, I've got a sag. You can really make it out in that light right there. It's not built up very high, so again, I'm really hoping that I can sand and polish it out. A little sag follows all the way down here. Now, I know this probably looks like a mess, but this is actually not a big deal. I actually saved myself by accident. You look really, really closely along this side, you can make out just barely there's a high side. I was able to lay down 5 coats of clear on this thing. On the second coat, I went way too wet. I got really close with the gun. I didn't mean to, and it started to run. On the next coat, once it got really, really tacky, I sprayed it really, really thick. As it started to drip a little bit more, it started to drip just to the bottom down here. I believe that's what also created this sag. This bottom down here is built up, obviously, but it's built up high enough that I should just be able to cut these little ends off, and then I can sand that down. Not to mention it's on the bottom here, so nobody's gonna really see that. After driving this thing for a little while, I'm sure the bottom of that's gonna be hit by road debris and stuff anyway. I know I say this all the time, all projects take longer than what I expect, but this one definitely took a lot longer. So I'm not gonna be finishing up the sanding in this video. That's obviously what I'll be starting with in the next video. The other thing that I still wanna do is put my stripes, wrap my vinyl on here, hopefully get this thing fully reinstalled. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that like button. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can see this thing finished up and back on the car. And I will catch you guys next time.